About 10 months ago, I made a tetrachromatic renderer. Tetrachromacy is when you have more than 3 cones, which doesn't typically happen in humans, but we can mathematically reason about it anyway. In my renderer, it doesn't really matter, but I imagine the 4th color cone to be slightly higher frequency than blue. This means that red and green form a close frequency pair, and blue and this new color form a close frequency pair. A while ago, I made a conlang spoken by a race of tetrachromatic aliens, and they have the exact same type of tetrachromacy, and so I'll be borrowing the words Ugof and Chotat from that language. Ugof is the name of the extra short cone's primary color, and Chotat is the name of the short cone's primary color. You might wonder why we don't just call it blue, since before it was blue, and the reason is that white minus blue is yellow, but if we add a 4th channel, white minus blue is no longer yellow, it's yellow plus Ugof. So this channel can't be blue, it has to be a new color, which we'll call Chotat. Chotat plus Ugof is now blue. So blue is a secondary color now, not a primary. And this actually makes sense if you think about how people missing a red or green cone don't see green and blue or red and blue. We say they see yellow and blue, which, nobody knows what other people's colors feel like. But the reason we do that is because yellow plus blue equals white. And probably some other reasons too, but that's how I've heard it explained. Anyways, the way my renderer works is that it has a grid of dots that range from black to white, depending on the Ugof channel, and then all the other pixels just have red, green, and Chotat mapped to red, green, and blue, which isn't technically accurate, but yeah. Here we have the Hue Sphere. It's based on a tetrahedron, so the 4 tetrahedrons points are the primary colors. This is primary color in the sense that red, green, and blue are primary colors, not in the sense that like red, blue, and yellow, which I'm not even sure why people say red, blue, and yellow are primary colors, because it's like not true. Anyways, this is the green primary color point. This is the red primary color point. This is the Chotat primary color point because blue is not a primary color anymore. And then finally we have the Ugof primary color point. And you can see how it's black with white dots because black means no red, green, or Chotat, and then the white dots means full Ugof. And you can see how it spreads across the whole sphere the same way the red, green, and blue channel, or the red, green, and Chotat channels do. So like I said, blue is the combination of Ugof and Chotat, so if I go right between these points, this is what blue looks like in the renderer. It's full blue plus white dots. There's also some other neat things about tetrachromacy is that secondaries aren't also opposites. So the opposite of, say, Ugof is not a secondary color, it's a tertiary color. It's red plus green plus Chotat, one of the faces of the tetrahedron. Then over here we have red plus Chotat plus Ugof, which is magenta. And yeah, there's lots of color combos here. I also have some other demos, like I have a much simpler Hue Tetrahedron. And you can see how the points are the primaries, and then there's the edges as the secondaries, and the faces as the tertiaries or opposites. And yeah, this isn't a perfect Hue Sphere mapping algorithm, but it works good enough, I think. I think this is pretty cool. I also have this image here, which is just some flowers that I drew. This one's Chotat, this one's red, this one's Ugof, and you can see how I made green not have much Ugof channel in it. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but yeah. I also have this color Tesseract here. Yeah, so this is the color Tesseract, so each axis of the Tesseract is an axis of the color space. So black is over there, and then there's red, green, Chotat, and UGOF on the 4 axes. And you can see how there's every combination. And there's white at the opposite corner. I think my conlang has names for all these colors, but I don't personally remember what they are. If a color change lands inside of a dot, it is actually cut off properly. So like the dots are just windows to the UGOF channel. They aren't like taking what the center color is and then mapping it to the whole dot. Then finally what I want to show is that there's a colorblind mode, which basically just turns into trichromatic vision. This is showing you what you would see if you saw this Hue Tetrahedron in real life. You can see how UGOF is just like darker blue, and then Chotat is just slightly darker blue, and you can see how actually blue is just full brightness deep blue. So yeah, and there's red, green, yellow, and then this looks like kind of like a beige-ish white because it's white minus a little bit of dark blue, you know, so it's like almost white. And that's anti-UGOF. I've heard that bees have trichromatic vision, and their vision is this triangle here. Our vision is this triangle. Here's what the flowers look like with the colorblind filter turned on. You can see how you would just call both of these blue, but they're actually completely different colors. And then here's what the Hue Sphere looks like. You can see it's kind of the same as the tetrahedron. Finally, here's what the color tesseract looks like with colorblind mode turned on. So you can see how like this corner, which is the opposite of UGOF, is just like a whitish beige like we saw before. And you can see how all the colors are slightly different. So this is what the color tesseract would look like if you were looking at it in real life. I also made a version of this renderer that toggles back and forth between the blue channel showing UGOF and Chotat, but this is much less helpful. On the more useful side of things, I made a version for colorblind people where it shows the normal colors with white dots for the red channel so that you can distinguish red and green. And I put a flag on here so that you can see what a rough approximation of what it should look like with red-green color blindness. So you can see how both of these are yellow and they're really hard to tell apart. But with the dots, it's a lot easier. You can also set it to this mode where only so the red channel is in the black and white dots, and then the green channel is turned into the yellow channel, and the blue channel is left unchanged. Anyway, yeah, that's about all I've got. Thanks for watching.